In today's thrift store challenge, we will be headed off to Pottery Barn to get some much needed outdoor inspiration. And then we are headed over to the thrift store to see what we can come up with for a whole lot less. With that being said, let's go ahead and get started. Kicking this video off talking about some textiles more specific to this outdoor living drop that Pottery Barn recently did. A lot of your typical kind of summer colors that Pottery Barn does with your creams and your blues, but also kind of heavy on the resort kind of cabana style linear fabric as well. Which now brings me to my current outdoor cushions, which have definitely seen better days. We got one of those solo stoves and we didn't put the top on it, something like a screen almost that you can cover it so this doesn't happen. But because we didn't do that, and probably our wood was a little bit too wet at the time, so I can't even turn them over because it's happened so many times. Like everything has at least one hole in it. But also too, each, like this was $80 and this was $80. So this was $160 and I bought it brand new. I did not thrift it because I needed it to be a specific size. So I was just kind of on the lookout for something that was either thrifted, really affordable. But you know what's even better than thrifting is finding it for free. So when I was driving to my mom's, I ended up finding two of these cabana style kind of lounger cushion sets. And one of them had a tag on it and it said it was from Home Goods. So I'm not sure how much these were originally, but the only thing that was really wrong with them is that they just needed a deep clean. I just sprayed these down with some OxiClean spray and then used my power washer. And I don't have lounge chairs, but the cushions that had the holes in them were originally for this love seat. So it's not the perfect fit, but again, these were 100% free for me. I did not have to buy anything new, and I think they look good enough to tide me over for another summer season. Another textile I wanted to touch on is beach towels, pool towels, things like that. Pottery Barn has a lot of really beautiful options, but you can also find really beautiful options at the thrift store. I loved this towel here, but I only ended up finding one of them, so I knew it would be more of a styling situation for this specific towel. But I ended up finding four of these kind of, again, this kind of cabana style towel with these blue and white stripes, which is very Pottery Barn. I only spent $10 total for all four of these towels. The only thing I was thinking about maybe trying to like jazz it up a little bit was to add some trim on either end of each towel. So the trim that I found though at the thrift store was just a little too, I guess, like cream. I wanted it to be either more white like the one from Pottery Barn, or maybe even doing like navy. So let me know what you guys think down in the comments below. I didn't want to attach them obviously until I decided on what color they should be, but I do think this is a super simple way. You can even do this to towels that you already have, and it just again adds a little bit more detail and makes it look a little bit more high end. Now this is where things can get really expensive, and that is the outdoor furniture from Pottery Barn. So these can cost a small fortune, but if you shop secondhand, you can usually find a pretty good deal. So I ended up finding this plaster coffee table for just $30, and then I got 20% off of that. So under $25 for this really large round plaster coffee table, I thought was a very fair price point. There was a little bit of wear and tear to the top, but I knew I would just need to paint it anyway. And the paint that I use is a Storm paint. It's from Lowe's. I actually use this on some of my planters that I keep outside. We don't have a covered patio, so anything that's out there needs to literally be able to weather the storm. And then to style it, one thing I have found is if you just invest your money in one large scale piece instead of buying a bunch of small things like from Dollar Tree, the overall impact just looks more expensive. So this vase from the Goodwill was $17.99, but was over $100 originally from Bed Bath & Beyond. And I think, again, it just adds to the overall high-end look that I'm trying to achieve, but so budget friendly. Let's do an apples to apples comparison. If I were to buy the cabana cushions, a similar blue vase, and the white plaster coffee table, this would be a small fortune, but because I found, cleaned, and thrifted them, this was such a major savings. Another thing I wanted to add to my outdoor space was a side table that provided me with a little bit of storage. We have a hot tub, so I wanted to create something that I would be able to kind of place all of the chemicals inside of there, and I wanted whatever sat inside to be kind of heavy so that way my kids couldn't lift and get to it. So to start, I found this shallow glass bowl that was really wide and large in scale. So I ended up just spray painting it the same color as the planter that I planned on putting this inside of. Next, I knew I needed to grab some cement or concrete because I wanted to make a really beautiful succulent bowl that would sit inside of our now storage side table planter. The one from Pottery Barn just had a flat top, so you could absolutely go that route and use it for towels or a cooler like they're showing here. So all you really need to start this project is some sort of cylinder planter. The reason I put these L brackets in, I obviously know I can't screw them in from the top, but they're sturdy enough that they can hold this little succulent bowl situation. I'm going to pop that little drainage hole out just in case there's just the slightest gap in between our thrifted bowl that we're going to put the succulents in and this planter that I got from last year. This is from Target. I think it was like $20 some. I've collected several succulents at the bins for several months now, but I also needed to purchase some from Amazon. So I just cut them down first before mixing and adding all of the cement because you don't have that much time to really work once the cement starts to harden. Once that was pretty level, then I just needed to add some painter's tape to keep the succulents in place. I'm just kind of loosely doing it until I'm sure that that's where I want the tape to be. And then once I just kind of secured those down and then filled in all of those slots with different succulents until all of the slots were completely filled out. I let that harden overnight, and then it was just time to combine the two pieces together. When I need to get into my hot tub thing, I can do so, and it looks beautiful sitting out on the table as a separate piece of decor. But then when I need them to be unified, when I'm trying to hide the chemicals, it can function that way as well. The last kind of furniture item I wanted to touch on was really beautiful log holders. I would really only recommend this if you have a covered patio, or if you know that you're going to be outside and it's not going to rain, you can kind of bring this down, put the logs there, you know, newspaper, fire starters, whatever you need. And I think it's just a really beautiful way to kind of display your logs. So this guy was $25, but then I got 20% off. Just needed a really good clean again, so I just cleaned it off and then placed some logs. I actually placed this inside in my bedroom near our fireplace. But let's say we are hosting and we're gonna have a bonfire, a cookout, whatever, I can always just take this downstairs, fill it up with logs, and it's just a beautiful way to display them, but on a budget. Next up, we're gonna move inside and touch on a few wall decor things. If you're looking for Pottery Barn inspired frames for like kids pictures, school pictures, just make sure that the mat that you find in your thrifted frame is very wide, because that is typically what you will see at high-end stores like Pottery Barn. When it comes to artwork and wall decor, I think the best thing I can tell you guys is just do some dream shopping from stores that you love. Find a piece you love and then go to your thrift stores. So for example, I found this very random wooden leg, and I decided this would make some really great kind of cube-like artwork. Taking my speed square, I'm just measuring out 1/2-inch sections and then taking it over to my miter saw, and I'm just going to cut those down. And I just repeated that process until the whole table leg was pretty much cut down in those little square sections. And then taking some scrap wood that I had in my stash, I'm just kind of arranging these square sections. I love a checker printed moment, but I wanted this one to be all kind of the same tone. So I just laid them out, and I thought it would look better if the pattern kind of stopped at the end and just kind of became more sparse. But before I add any trim pieces or any wood pieces on, I wanted to stain this board first just to make sure that it felt really nice and uniform. Grabbed some trim from my stash, cut it down with my miter saw at a 45-degree angle so they have mitered corners, and then used the biggest clamps that I could find in my garage and attached these with some wood glue and then secured them down with my brad nail gun. For stain, I used a stain that I don't usually use anymore because it usually pulls a bit too kind of like orangey for my floors, which have definitely more of like a grayish undertone. But I started out with Early American, and I stained all of these pieces using a Ziploc bag, and then I just kind of shook them around in there, and then I also stained the board and the trim pieces that color as well. and I hated it. It was super like not what I had in my mind at all. It didn't look good with my floors, so I had to go back to the drawing board. To neutralize everything, I went in with this ultra matte camouflage spray paint. I believe it's in the color khaki. Gave 2 applications to this wall art piece, let that dry, and then I decided I was going to just do good old faithful. You guys know I do this trick all the time because it works. So I decided to take some watered down antiquing wax and just apply that instead. To me, this looks so much better, so much more high end. It looks so much better with my floors, and the only new thing I bought was that random wooden leg from the bins. The next thing I just want to briefly touch on is lighting, and that is only to tell you guys this. Sometimes I think people pass on thrifted items because it's missing a piece. So for example, this wall sconce is originally from Wayfair, I believe, and costs like almost $200. It is missing one of these little screw pieces. These little screw pieces are like $4. And guess how much this entire light fixture was? $4. So even if you have to buy one small piece, don't skip it because the fix is super affordable. Same deal for floor lamps, table lamps. The only place you will find a lamp base that looks like this for $6 is at a thrift store. And one thing I wanted to make sure I shared with you guys is that heart, that top part of a table lamp, comes out very easily. So let's say you find a shade, but it doesn't have the right hole that you need. So usually when it comes to lampshades, you have one of 2 things. It's one that has a hole at the top or one that has a hole at the bottom. So if you found a great shade that has a hole at the bottom, just take the harp out, and then that way it can sit and meet where the light bulb kind of fits inside of. It is a super simple fix that can save you a ton of money. And that really wraps it up for today, you guys. Thank you so much for watching. Let me know down in the comments which project or find was your favorite, and I hope to see you back here next Sunday. Bye for now.